Welcome back to the sportsbackroom.com. Today we are here with Coach P.J. Fleck. He is currently the head football coach at Western Michigan University. The purpose of this interview is to just get the perspective of being a player throughout college, playing in the pros, and then becoming a head coach at the college level, and maybe more. We'll find out. Coach Fleck, welcome to the show.
Well, thanks for having me. I appreciate you having me on.
No doubt. Now, before we get started, back in the day, not too long ago, but back in the day, you were a wide receiver. And I had to tell myself, I was like, the first question has to be, what was your favorite route to run as a receiver?
Well, I wasn't very fast, so most of the short ones. For me, it was probably a slant or anything across the middle, short, because a lot of people weren't willing to do it, and I absolutely loved it. So I'd probably say the 10, 12-yard in from the slot, option routes on the inside, short posts is what they call it in the National Football League. I enjoy working the inside part of the defense, and a lot of times people don't want to go in there. There's a lot of people that are a lot bigger than me in there, but to me, it was, like I said, I was not a guy that could stretch the field, so it wouldn't be many downfield throws.
Now, growing up, did you always play football, or were you sort of any piece of action I can get my hands onto sports-wise, I was there?
Growing up, my mom and dad put me in everything possible. I mean, I had so much energy as a kid. I mean, I don't know what I'd be labeled if I was born like today in this day and age. They have labels for everything, for every kid. If a kid is active, they label them, something. But they put me in everything. If I was in baseball, though, if I was 7 years old, I'd be in the nine-year-old group. My dad always put me in 2 years or a year ahead of where I was. And they never told me, but that was just what it was. And I always thought people were just bigger and stronger and faster than me, but they were, but I could still outcompete them. And I still found a way to beat them. But I was in baseball, basketball, gymnastics, every sport I could possibly do, my mom had me in. There were times where I was in pottery. I was doing things with my sister. I mean, just to keep me active. And I think I love that because it gave me a true broad sense of what I was interested in. And trust me, football would not have been my first sport because I was always so undersized. I didn't play tackle football until I got to 8th grade, 9th grade. I didn't play tackle football. I always played flag football. And I graduated from high school at 5'8", 150 pounds, and somehow earned a Division I scholarship. So, I mean, I've always been undersized. I've always loved that underdog role, but it stems back to when my parents, when I was growing up, they always kept me doing something.
Now, in high school, coming out of high school, were you highly recruited? Were you like, a blue chip guy? Not at all.
No, not at all. I set every Illinois state receiving record there was, and won 2 state titles back to back with my high school football team, Canelan High School in Illinois. We were a small school. Out of 6 classes at the time, we were 3A, so we were right in the middle. But we had about 24 kids on our high school team. Everybody played both ways. Everybody had to do something. You were either the kicker plus the wideout plus the defensive back plus the R4 on kickoff. But no, I did not. I had 1 scholarship offer. I was actually a better basketball player. I mean, I averaged 24.5 points a game in basketball. I was an all-state guy in track. I was always on the best club teams in baseball. High school team didn't have a baseball team. High school didn't have a baseball team. And then football, I did it because I could catch, right? And but it was the first thing that was ever thrown out to me in terms of paying for my college. And I come from a very blue-collar family. And I know they weren't going to have to, they were never going to be able to pay for my college. So I knew immediately when I got that offer, I'm going to take it. And that was the only offer I ever received. You set every Illinois state receiving record there was out of all the people who played Illinois, football, and only have 1 offer. So that tells you I was 5'8", 150 pounds. No one really wanted that. I wasn't very fast. So.
Wow. So what was it like in Northern Illinois? I mean, what were your expectations stepping on a campus?
Well, I know that when I first got there, we had the longest losing streak in the country. It was 27 games, and that's what I got recruited into. But Joe Novak, who was the guy who actually recruited me, had a big-time belief system in turning that program around. He was going to do it with area kids. He was going to do it with young people that truly wanted to be there. And he always had a saying that those who stay will be champions. So for me, the expectation was always we're going to be champions one day. You know, we never settled for anything less. Same with myself. I've always had a chip on my shoulder. I've always been having to prove myself to people. And right now is no different, me being the youngest head football coach in the country. I mean, it's no different. But I've been trained for that. I've been trained for that my entire life, so and including Northern Illinois. But I always have a quote that I tell myself on a daily basis that hangs in my office. It said, I've had all the disadvantages required for success. And that all started when I was a kid, but it was no different in Northern Illinois.
So take us back. I mean, you get recruited into a program that, let's just be honest, wasn't that good when you stepped into the program. But they turned things around while you were there, and I believe you were the team captain, right?
Yeah, two-time team captain. You know, my senior year, I mean, so this is a program with a matter of 4 or 5 years that went from having the longest losing streak in the country to, you know, my senior year we went down to Tuscaloosa, Alabama, and beat Alabama, and 10th-ranked Maryland at Husky Stadium, and we beat them, and had Iowa State in Husky Stadium and beat them that year. And, you know, so, I mean, we were at the time, we were ranked 9th in the BCS. We actually set the way for a Boise State to be able to do what they did, because once we broke the BCS, there was no formula for us to even go to a bowl game. You know, we ended the season 10-2, and we didn't even have a bowl game berth. Now you see teams 6-6 go to bowl games. So we set the way for the Mid-American Conference that year to be able to say we got to make something different. Same with college football with a team like Boise State. And after that, that's when you saw Boise State get an opportunity and be ranked, and now they had a formula for it. And obviously that's changed now with the whole playoff system. But I know that Northern Illinois that year really did a lot for the conference.
So, I mean, before we transition to the next level of the pros, was it just Coach Novak or, at Northern Illinois that had a positive influence on you? Were there any players or assistant coaches that, sort of enlightened you or inspired you to be even?
Well, yeah, our staff at the time that I played for was absolutely incredible. If you look at the staff that was there when I played there, Scott Schaefer, who's now the head coach at Syracuse, he was our defensive coordinator, and then he left. And then Pat Narduzzi, who's now the defensive coordinator at Michigan State, he was there. George McDonald was one of our wide receivers. He was a wide receiver coach there. He's now the offensive coordinator at Syracuse. Dan Roshar, who was our offensive coordinator when I was there, he was at Michigan State as the offensive coordinator. Now he's in the National Football League. I could go on and on. Matt Canada, who's now the offensive coordinator at North Carolina State. These guys they were incredible. And then my teammates, Thomas Hammock, who's now a big-time successful running backs coach at the University of Wisconsin. He was our tailback. And then he had a heart condition. Then Michael Turner. Everybody knows Michael Turner. Michael Turner came in, and he's had a 10-year career with the Atlanta Falcons and San Diego Chargers, and Turner the Burner. He was our running back. Nick Duffy, who was one of the toughest linebackers, who'd probably still be playing National Football League if he didn't break his leg that year. Josh Haldy, who's our quarterback, Chris Finland, who was our quarterback. Those people were just we were all the same type of people. We were snubbed by the Big Ten, or we were snubbed by a BCS conference, and we all had something to prove. Same with that coaching staff, and that's what truly made them special. They all wanted to prove themselves, and they all came from the ground up. They had to build their reputation and their career from the ground up, and they did it the hard way. And now look at all of them. So that was truly, truly a special time for Northern Illinois. And all the things you're seeing now, I think, with Northern Illinois and all the success they're having, that stems back 15 years. That was the start of it. That was Joe Novak's vision, and it finally came to the forefront.
It's awesome. It's crazy once you get a group of, it's not crazy. It's completely logical. Once you get a group of people who are wired the same way and they have an end goal of, a vision, great things start to happen, towards that vision.
Yeah, absolutely. So you get enough motivated people going the same direction, and we call it rowing the boat here, row the boat, that, anything's possible. And that's what with Joe Novak and his whole vision at Northern Illinois, that's what came about from it.
So let's talk about the pros. I mean, you had a pretty successful college career. What was your outlook going into draft day, like, the combine, pro days, all that?
Well, I knew that I had a shot. I had a phenomenal senior year, and I was an undersized 4'7", 4'8" wide receiver that could catch everything. And that was the only thing I had. I could get open, I could go over the middle, I could take hits, and I could catch every single ball that was thrown to me. And that's what made me valuable. And the San Francisco 49ers took a shot at me as an undrafted free agent. I was not drafted. And I went into training camp in San Francisco and was 14 out of 14 on the depth chart. And I remember looking at that as an undrafted free agent. I think my signing bonus was $1,000, $2,000. These days you hear all those signing bonuses. Mine was not. Actually, when I got out to San Francisco, living out there, you actually had a bill when I got there. With all the taxes that were taken out, there was no signing bonus anymore. It turned into a bill. But I was 14 out of 14 on the depth chart, had to work my way up. They drafted 2 receivers, one in the first round, one in the third round that year. So it was kind of an uphill battle. Ended up impressing everybody, and had a lot of games, and actually got a chance to start against the Chicago Bears, which is my hometown, in the preseason. Dennis Erickson let me start that game just because I was going back home, and I had proven myself that I could play. And the whole year, they had some politics that had to go on. I earned my way into the top 6 somehow, some way, and stuck on the team. And they put me on the practice squad for the first part of the season. Then I actually played at the end of the year. My first game ever on Sundays was against the New England Patriots, and that was a dream come true for me, because I still remember standing on the kickoff on a Sunday in New England, getting ready to run down on kickoff, and it was kind of like a Rudy moment. That, to me, it was my dream my entire life was to play on Sunday. And now I get to actually do it. And I still remember that play vividly. Went down and made the tackle. I mean, it was interesting. It was just surreal. And the next year I made the team. They put me on the active roster. So now I'm part of the 53 and I'm rolling. And then I have a shoulder injury. So I have a shoulder injury, have to get that fixed, and then come back the next year and get hurt again. And next thing you know, I'm out of the league. So, but the day I got cut, Mike Nolan offered me a coaching job as well, which I don't know if that ever happened in NFL history, where they cut a receiver and then offer him a job at the same time. So, but I think Mike Nolan knew I wanted to be a head football coach. But wonderful experience, incredible people. Mike McCarthy was our offensive coordinator, was head coach of the Packers. I mean, the people I was around was just invaluable.
So let's talk about coaching. Obviously, all athletes never really want to talk about, hanging them up, whether it's by their choice or not. Everybody has a plan, but it changes because it's never fully under your control. Did you always want to coach?
I have a teaching degree. I taught in elementary education. I was a 6th grade social studies teacher for about 4 weeks until I got picked up by the 49ers. So I've always had a teaching background. I love to teach. I love young people. So I knew when I was a player, I knew I wanted to be around football, and that was all I wanted to be around. So if I could teach, coach, coaching is teaching the game of football, and that's perfect because I wanted to teach and I wanted to have something to do with football, so it worked perfectly. And then, that's where it all started, and I absolutely love every single day of my life. I've loved it ever since. We've moved a lot, 7 times in 8 years, and we've been all over the country. And our son's 3 years old. He lives in 4 states, but I wouldn't trade that for the world, because we are now where we wanted to be. Wanted to become a head coach, and got my break early. And I've earned everything I've ever gotten. I don't have a dad that was a coach. And my dad kills bugs for a living, and my mom's a teacher's aide. So I've kind of done it the hard way.
Now, you got to coach at Northern Illinois too, right? How was that? Was that a full circle moment?
It was. It really was, because Joe Novak gave me my first shot as a player. And then I go play in the National Football League. Then I come back and then actually take a job at Ohio State with Jim Tressel. And then I was a GA, went to the national championship against Florida. We lost, but it's a great experience. Then right after that, Joe Novak hires me to get my first job as a player. So Joe Novak had taken 2 shots out on me. One, as a player when no one else wanted me, and 2, as some young, up-and-coming coach to hire him at 24, 25 years old as one of the youngest position coaches in the country. He hired me and gave me my first shot. So he gave me my first shot. Not for Joe Novak, I wouldn't be anywhere. He was willing to take a shot on me. And, I'm forever in debt to him. But that was full circle for me. That was wonderful. And then after Northern Illinois, I decided I took a job with Greg Schiano at Rutgers, which was a tremendous experience. I mean, Greg Schiano is one of the best coaches in the country. And, now he's in the National Football League. And then we had some really good years at Rutgers, and he took me with him when he went to Tampa Bay. And coaching in the NFL, being the youngest position coach in the NFL last year, that was a wonderful experience. I've always been the youngest, but I've never let that affect my mind. I've never let the circumstance of that dictate my behavior. And I learned so much last year. I got to coach Vincent Jackson, and Vincent started in a Pro Bowl last year, and Mike Williams, who his only goal was to get a big-time contract because he was in his contract year, and he just signed a $40 million contract last Thursday. So to see that kind of happen and the success we had in Tampa and that I had coaching those guys, it was really really neat because, again, you're going to the National Football League now, not as a player, as a coach. How am I going to get these guys to respect me? Vincent Jackson's already been to some Pro Bowls. Now I'm coaching them. We're the same age. It was interesting. So, but I know this. We had a blast. It was a lot of fun. And now here I am as the youngest head coach in the country, and love the minute of it, turning this Western Michigan program around.
Now, before we talk about the Western Michigan job and how you got it and all that, I want to take a moment to ask you, because I got the opportunity to ask Jason Tarver, the defensive coordinator for the Oakland Raiders, this question, because he's coached in college, with Stanford, and been a GA with UCLA, and he also has been with the Niners and now the Raiders. You've played and coached in college and the pros. How do you relate to those different sets of guys? You just said that Mike Williams wanted to get a new contract. For those of us out there who are, I'm just going to say, skeptical, say, well, that's sort of wrong, or that's sort of selfish. I personally don't think so, but it's so totally different from a kid coming out of South Canton, Ohio, who just wants a shot, who just wants to get a college degree, wants to be on the potentially be on the two deeps, as an upperclassman. Those are two completely different mindsets.
Here's the thing I'll tell you. When people want to be coached and they want to become elite, they want to become the best of the best, it's your job to bring it out of them as a coach. That shouldn't change if the kid's in Pop Warner. That shouldn't change if the kid's in middle school. That shouldn't matter if the kid's in high school, college, or the pros. The one experience I got from the pros, Mike Williams wanted a contract, but Mike wanted to be phenomenal. He wanted to be elite, and he knew he had to do it and had to do it fast. So if you were willing to help me and you were willing to truly coach me and you could make me better, I'm going to listen to you. The problem is a lot of people maybe in that league sit there and say, well, I don't want to build a relationship with this player. You can't build relationships. I don't believe in that. The NFL players are just as hungry as college athletes to be coached. I truly believe that. There's a lot of college players that don't want to be coached. They're at both levels. But once you show you can help young people, and in the NFL, they're still young people, and a lot of them are grown men, but they're still young people at heart. They want to be coached. They want to be different. They want to be the best they can be. The minute you can show them you can do that, they'll cling on to you, and they'll trust you. When you show you can't do that, you're no good to them because you can't get them where they want to go. And in the National Football League, it's all about money. It's their job. That's their profession. How can I be the best I can be? How can I make more money? How can we win Super Bowls? In college, it's a little bit different. We want to win championships. We want you to be the best player you can be. We want you to have a future in the NFL if you can. But if you don't, we want you to be ready for the real world. And, but once you're a teacher for life. And whether that's in the NFL or whether that's in college or high school or whenever, you can coach at all certain levels. Now, you have to adapt to certain people, what makes people tick. You have to push different buttons. You have to find out, and you have to care enough to get to know that. And that's what's the biggest difference to me. Even when I was a player, there were a lot of NFL coaches who didn't care to get to know me. Well, then I wasn't really going to get to, trust you as much. But it was the ones that came into my life that I could trust, that I was willing to say, that guy can make me better. I need to be around him. And it's amazing. The NFL works the same way.
That's awesome. I mean, because before I asked you the question, having played college ball, is that, it's all about the relationship, and you nailed it on the head. If guys know, whether they're 18 or they're 34, they know if you can't do anything for them. And they know more importantly if you don't want to do anything for them. And it definitely goes both ways.
Yep. And Jason Tarver, he was actually when I was in San Francisco, Tarver, he was our defensive quality control guy when I was with San Francisco. So Coach Tarver and I go way back. And, when I was in Tampa last year, we played Oakland at Oakland. He was the D coordinator, and we got a chance to meet on the field before the game and just got to reminisce. Well, he is a phenomenal person, phenomenal coach, phenomenal family man, and one of the best coaches, I think, in this profession.
Yeah, he's definitely on the rise, and he has a great way of relating just his intent, but where you fit into his intent. Whether it's an interview or I'm guessing as a player, you can just sense it. Now let's transition to the Western Michigan job. You said it a couple times here, and I don't think it's really sunk in yet. But you're the youngest head coach in the FBS. You've played in the NFL. You've gotten some awesome either GA or assistant coach positions. Did you think you were ready? Was it did you think, hey, you know what, now it's time? Or is it one of those things where it wasn't that you didn't know, it's just more so that the opportunity came up, and like you said earlier, you've never worried about anything other than just doing your best and, rowing the boat in the direction that you're going.
Well, that's all I've worried about. You're 100% right. I mean, I don't worry about what I'm not. I'm worried about what I am and how can I become better at that. My whole life I've always been against the grain. But I was ready 3 years ago. I mean, I'll be honest with you. Being a head football coach, I've learned, and this is one of the things that's out there I just don't understand, but being a head coach is all about leading men. It's not managing anybody. You manage machines. It's leading men. I don't think it has anything to do with being a wonderful offensive coordinator or defensive coordinator. I have, now sitting in the chair, I have such an appreciation for what the head coach actually does. You run, here at Western Michigan, I'm in charge of leading 180,000 people, plus all the alumni that are all around the nation. That's what I do. Now, as a coordinator, you have a job of leading 55 people. As an assistant coach, your job is to lead 15 people. But there's no direct correlation, I think, between calling a game on offense or defense, calling a play, and leading men, leading a community, leading an administration, being the spokesperson for the football team, being out in the community, being out in the public's eye, being the face of the program, building relationships with people within the community. That has nothing to do, I think, with calling the play. That's why I hired two phenomenal offensive coordinators so I could be the head coach. Some people try to do a lot. I know a lot of offensive coordinators that aren't very good head coaches. I know a lot of good head coaches that aren't very good coordinators. And there's some that are good at both. It's about leading people. Just because you can call a play on Sunday or Saturday doesn't mean that you can get people to follow you. And I've learned this in my career, if you run out of that tunnel and they're physically behind you but not mentally or spiritually or devoted to you and behind you, you got no shot. I don't care how good of a play caller you are. that team needs to be following you with their mental fire, their physical fire, and their emotional fire. In every facet, they need to be there burning to play for you. And that's when you'll get the most out of your football team, and that's when you'll win Super Bowls, that's when you'll win championships. But just because you can call a play well does not make you a good head football coach. And I've learned that. And I've only learned that by sitting in that chair because people told me, you've never been a coordinator. You know, that has nothing to do with being a phenomenal head coach. And I'll be the first to tell people that.
So, what was the interview process like? Because me hearing you, not even an AD who can give you a job, me hearing that, I'm just like, wow. Okay, we're canceling the rest of our interview. Let's talk to Pete. Let's talk to this guy. Let's call his references. What was the process like?
Well, the process was, I loved it. Kathy Beauregard actually came to me. She was down in Tampa. I got a phone call. I'm actually doing our third down game plan and red zone stuff that I was putting together for Mike Sullivan, our offensive coordinator in Tampa Bay, and I'm putting it together. And I get a phone call from Kathy Beauregard, and she goes, "Hi, I'm the athletic director at Western Michigan." I said, "Wonderful, you know." She goes, "I'm down here in Tampa. I just want to know if I can maybe talk to you." I said, "Sure." So I went into Greg Schiano's office, let him know that someone would like to talk to me about being a head coach, and Greg has known my goals since I started working for him. And he was a very young head coach as well when he took the job at Rutgers. So he knows what it's like, and he's like, "I'd love you to talk to him. Go right ahead." So he said, "But I want you to get all your stuff done still." I said, "Yeah, absolutely." So right away, I left. I went there, and it was probably about 9 o'clock. We met at Capitol Grill, just talked. It was supposed to be about a half hour. Well, we stayed there for about 4 hours. And I knew the owner of the Capitol Grill, so he was like, "Hey, we're leaving. You guys can stay here." So we sat outside for even longer after they closed and just got to know one another. So a 30-minute interview turned into 4 hours. I get back to the facility. It's about 1 o'clock in the morning, and I still got to put my third down and red zone together. So I'm sitting there doing it till about 5 in the morning, but it was worth it. And then they kept coming back down to Tampa because I had a coach, and Coach Schiano wasn't willing to let me leave, and I didn't want to leave to go interview somewhere. I wanted to be with our football team, and so they kept coming down there, and then eventually they hired me, to be honest with you. And then the day I got hired, my wife had a baby. We had our little daughter, PJ, Paisley Jane, and the day I got hired, literally. And I got hired, and about 4 hours later, we had our baby girl. So my wife's in the hospital. They send a private plane for me. They pick me up. They take me out there. I do the press conference, and then I come back, and my wife's still in the hospital, and, we get everything ready to go, and then finish up the season in Tampa and then get out here.
Wow. At any point in your playing career, your coaching career, have you ever just stopped and thought to yourself, "Wow, I'm really doing this right now"?
You know what? Not yet. To be honest with you, no. I love what I do, but I've never really put a exaggeration or how do I put it? I've never put like a crown on, "Hey, I'm a head coach, I've arrived." It's only just begun for me. Becoming the youngest head coach has always been one of my goals. It was on my bucket list. It was on my goal sheet that I keep in my Franklin Covey planner for the last 7 years. It was to become the youngest head football coach in the country. And it's on there, and I look at it every day. But now that I'm there, I don't stop saying, "Oh, I did it," because now this is only the beginning of my career. So I never really stopped and said, "Wow, that happened." I think my wife and I went out to dinner to celebrate it maybe one night, and that was it. But I don't ever look at it like that because I've always kept myself doing something to do more, like just putting stuff out in front of me. If I'm not doing something, I'll find something to do. I'm not one to relax. I'm not one to sit there, and I'm just one to go. And, even when I go on my daily runs, I keep thank God for the iPhone, because now all of a sudden I just keep all my notes in my phone, and that's my time to think and take notes and organize staff meetings. And so I'm always doing something, multitasking. I'm always doing more. But I never really had a time. I'll do that one day when I retire. I'll look back and enjoy, but shoot, retirement, that's a long way down the road.
So let's talk about Western Michigan. Let's start from the foundation. What are you trying to build? You stepped into a situation in Northern Illinois where I believe you said there was a 27-game losing streak. You overcame that. Your team overcame that. What is Western Michigan? What's the prospectus for them? What are you trying to do for them immediately?
Well, what I'm trying to do is change the culture. I didn't get hired here to win in 2013 and win 7 games. I didn't get hired to do that. What I got hired to do was, by Cassie Beauregard, was to change a culture here, to make this a championship program consistently. And I know that. I'm not here to compete, to make things close. I'm here to win championships, and I know that. Now I'm putting pressure on myself. I believe in pressure. I don't believe in stress. Pressure is what you put on yourself and what you can control. That's what pressure is. And every day I put more pressure on myself than the day before. Stress is things I can't control. That's the future. I can't control anything but today. That's stress to me. I don't believe in stress. I don't have any stress in my life because all I worry about is the pressure I put on myself today. Now, I have a ton of pressures, but I love pressures because I can control them. I'm not willing to stick my neck out here because I truly believe this place can be a championship program. If I didn't believe it could be, I wouldn't say it. This place has everything it can have to be a championship program. It just needs to be built that way. It needs to be built with a foundation. It needs to be built consistently. It needs to be built with some type of consistency throughout the coaching ranks as we continue to go through this. A lot of MAC schools, we jump. MAC coaches jump. That's what we have to be able to build here. And the foundation is being laid. We've raised $5 million in about 5 months, and we got brand new facilities coming in with new turfs and changing everything. We've changed our whole logo. We've changed new uniforms. We've changed our locker room. We're changing our weight room, changing our lobby, changing our hallways, changing all the time. We brought a saying, row the boat to this community. I have to get the community involved. I cannot make this like every other MAC program where people just come if you win, they don't if you lose. It's what you do in Kalamazoo, you come to football games. This is your football game. And we've got to be able to build 36,000 people in the stadium consistently, win or lose. That's what I'm building here. I'm building something greater than ourselves. Row the boat means nothing about a horse or anything else. A bronco means nothing. But what it means is we're all in this together. You can have an oar. Everyone can row the boat. The oar is the symbol behind our program. It's the energy. It's the driving force. Everyone can own an oar, hanging in their house, hanging in their office, hanging in their kid's bedroom. You have ownership. It's like a stock. You've bought stock into this program. The boat is a sacrifice. What are you willing to sacrifice for this program to put it on top of the country? Yes, I said the country. What are we willing to sacrifice to do that? As a community. And the third is the compass. Where's our direction? What has our leaders set for us, and where are we going? Is he saying it to say it, or does he really think it's obtainable? We can't see our future. We can't see the front of the boat. We're rowing it. Our back's turned to the future. All we can do is row right now in the present and look into the past and learn from it. And we're going to row as efficiently as we possibly can. If we get everybody to row the boat in the same efficiency, same speed, same power, we will get from point A to point B faster than we expected to. And everybody will have what they've dreamed of having here at Western Michigan.
That is the definition of a vision.
The blueprint's there. That's one thing. And then that's one thing I've learned is that even from Joe Novak, I will not go away from this vision. They hired me. They knew the vision when they did hire me. The blueprint's here, and I'm going to stick to this blueprint because I truly, truly believe in it. No matter how rocky the seas get, we're just going to keep rowing. I don't know how many games we'll win this year or next year. I don't know that. But all I know is we're going to stick to this plan. And as long as I'm the head football coach, this will be the plan.
What is the importance of the weight room to the future of your plan, of your team?
Well, it's everything to me. I hired a guy by the name of Dan Nickel. When I first got the job, I called Coach Doyle at the University of Iowa, and I said, who do I hire? And he told me, you hired Dan Nickel from the University of Maine. And I did. Dan Nickel's the greatest thing that happened to Western Michigan football. We've lost 3% body fat in the last 6 months of every single kid on this program. On average, 3%. We've lost 400 pounds of fat. Think about that. 400 pounds of fat as a football team in the last 6 months. We've gained close to 350 pounds of lean muscle mass as a football team. We've gained 4 pounds almost on average, 3 pounds, 4 pounds on average of lean muscle mass. We've lost 3% body fat, but gained 3-4 pounds of lean muscle mass. We're a same players, just a more athletic football program or football team. They've dropped 2/10 on their pro shuttle. We're more athletic. We're more agile. We're a better program and a better football team than we were last year right now. I don't know how that'll translate in wins and losses, but we are. And our kids have to believe that. And they see it because the proof's in the pudding. And they get proven to that on a daily basis by Dan Nickel and his energy and his staff. But I know this, I've got one of the best up-and-coming strength coaches in America, and I'm so proud to call him my strength coach.
Now let's talk about the recruiting side. I have a gut feeling that you're pretty good at that. How do you recruit kids to come to Kalamazoo?
Well, I know this. If you kind of look, I can't talk too much about the 2014 class, but right now we're ranked in the top 30, which has never happened in the history of the conference. We'll probably sign the greatest class ever to come through the Mid-American Conference. We have one of the highest-ranked recruits ever in the history of the conference, possibly coming to us. So, I mean, we have so many of these things happen in a positive way to a team that's 4-8 last year. What I did to them, and I'm just honest, I give them the vision. I give them exactly what I gave you, and they all hear it, they all believe in it, and they're willing to take a chance, just like people took a chance on me. But they know they can come in here and impact a community, not just a football program, but a community. It's a 40-year decision, not a 4-year decision. And we're all going to be family for life. Truly, truly family. We don't put limits on ourselves in this program. We never will. We're not considered a mid-major. I don't look at our players as mid-major people. I don't look at our players as just not people. That's determined as a mid-major. We're going to define us. We'll define us in recruiting. We're not going to tell people who we can recruit. We're not going to listen to people tell us who we can recruit and who we can't recruit. Oh, he's got Big Ten offers. That doesn't bother me. We're recruiting that person, and we're going to show them why this place is better than anywhere else in the country. And like I said, this community has everything to offer. Got 170,000 people within a 5-mile radius. You get the rural feel, plus you get the city feel. You have 26,000 people on campus. You got Chicago 2 hours, Detroit 2 hours, Grand Rapids 45 minutes. I could go on and on with that. You got some of the best lakeshore beaches in all the Midwest on the west part of the state. It's one of the top 100 public institutions in the entire country academically. You got some of the best restaurants in the state of Michigan here in Kalamazoo. We got a 5-star hotel that we stay at for our team hotel that's right here downtown Kalamazoo. The resources, Stryker, the internships that we have, Stryker, Kellogg, they're right here. It's a wealthy community. And people love their football. They just need a reason to come back to it, and that's what we're giving them.
Now, I read somewhere that you rescinded some scholarships of some verbal commitments.
Well, that was back in when I first got here. And what happened was when I first took the job, there was about a month and a half there where they didn't have a football coach. So when I took the job, I had about 41 kids. Think about this. I had 41 kids call and tell me they were committed. That doesn't make sense. You can only sign 25 in a class. So there are a lot of kids trying to take advantage of the situation with this new coach. I didn't retain many of the old coaches, and a lot of these kids, those coaches didn't know of. They didn't know of the players that were supposedly committed. So what I did to make things quick, I only had 4 weeks to react. I had about 25 seconds to react on this. I'm going to put everybody back in the blender. I'm going to mix them up, and I'm going to re-recruit everybody that said they were committed. And again, I look at it as they were committed to the last staff. They were committed to that last program. They were committed to that last regime. There are a lot of kids that weren't even committed that said they were committed. I didn't know who to believe. So I thought I did what I thought was right. But I know this program is going to keep their commitments, always keep them loyal, and we're the same way when we give our commitment to our kid. He's coming here if he wants to come here. So, again, I think that was a whole misunderstanding that some people were very unhappy. The guy that wrote the article is a dad of a kid on the one of the players that it happened to, so he really let it happen, which is okay. I understand people were going to be upset about it, but as a head football coach, I didn't know who was committed. And when you have 41 people telling you're committed, but you only have 17 scholarships, that does not work.
Yeah, I mean, when I read up on it, I was like, well, I mean.
Yeah, but that guy didn't want to put any of the stuff in the article that was actually true.
He was mad
because his buddy's kid, got screwed. And I know some kids got screwed out of that, but I didn't know who was right. I talked to high school coaches. Some of them didn't know. Some of them did know. These days, with everybody else running some of the players' lives, instead of the actual high school coaches being that involved, kids have basically, uncles and brothers and their trainers and all these people running their recruiting that a lot of high school coaches were out of the loop. So, again, when you take over a program, you got 4 weeks to put together a class. You got to make some decisions fast, and you got to make decisions that are beneficial to the program. And that's what I felt the decision. It's a tough decision, not going to be a very popular decision, but I had to make a decision that was right for this program.
Yeah, and to me, from afar, it's a decision that backs up who you say you are. I mean, why as a parent or as a student why would I believe this Coach Fleck guy who says that he wants to change the culture when I potentially lied to get into his program? That completely, I mean, it's not a knee-jerk reaction, but it's something that you had to do for the viability of your vision, and I think that that's admirable. I can't think of too many coaches doing it like that, simply because they don't want to ruffle, they're brand new and they want to keep everybody happy, but happiness is relative. I mean, if a situation is taken away from what you're trying to build, other areas are going to get affected. Always.
People always say it's very lonely at the top. It is. When you take a head coaching job, it ain't like being an assistant anymore. Whether you're a coordinator or just an assistant. Bill Cosby always used to say, and I'm a big Bill Cosby fan, he goes, I don't know the secret to success, but I do know the secret to failure. And that secret to failure is making everybody happy. And I'll never be able to do that because I know that this program will be successful, and there's going to be a lot of people that are happy, and there's a lot of people that aren't going to be happy. But one thing people will be able to at least say about PJ Fleck is, look, he was up front, he was honest with me, and he told me exactly how it was going to be. And he put himself in with me and told that to me to my face. And I can live with that because at least I can sleep at night by knowing that I did the right thing.
Now, 2 more topics. Education. I mean, you touched on it earlier. Now, let's just be real. How do you, with your vision, fit in, maybe not fit in, but use education to inspire young men?
Well, here's the thing. I mean, if I'm going to talk about education being important, then I better do class checks. I do class checks in this program. Do our GAs help with it? Yes, but I do a lot of the class checks. I show those players that, hey, it's important. You better be in class. I get to the middle of campus, and I'll talk to students. Usually once a week, I'll just drive to the middle of campus on my golf cart here, or I'll go out for an afternoon run and just talk to the students that walk by. I was an academic All-American in college. I was not very smart, but I could outwork people. I knew how to work smart. I wasn't very smart, but I knew how to work smart. I knew how to use things in my advantage, and I had resources around me. I was a very good communicator, and I don't think there's anyone else in the country that has this type of resume in terms of the broad direction for student athletes. We're saying as a head football coach, we are leading young men, young student athletes into the real world. Well, I played in this conference. I coached in this conference. I was an all-MAC player in this conference. I was an academic All-American in this conference. I played in the NFL. I coached in the NFL. I mean, I got into the real world. I mean, every experience, I might not have all the wins as all these other guys or championships, but you know what? When we're relating to young men, there's nobody better at relating to what they're going through on a daily basis than I think me as a head football coach. And if I want somebody to play for, if I'm going to play for somebody, then I better find somebody who's been where I want to be, knows how to get there, or knows people that are there. And I know all of them. I fit all those categories. Same thing with academics. And we make sure our players know the internship programs that they have here. We have a 2.81 GPA right now. That's the second highest in the school's history as a football program. And we're going to top 2.9, 3.0 eventually here. but it's a way of life. If you're going to be an elite person, you're an elite person in every aspect of your life. We don't talk about just being elite in football. We talk about being an elite husband, being an elite father, being an elite son, being an elite brother, being an elite boyfriend, being elite, whatever. If you're going to be elite, you're going to be elite in everything you touch. And we're going to direct our energy, which is our attitude. Attitude equals directed energy into what we're doing at that moment. That's all we're going to worry about. And that's how I think that we're able to have the success we're having academically, too.
No, wow. That's I would play for you. I mean, I'm not saying that to be corny, but I think a lot of I know a lot of coaches and a lot of athletic programs and football programs are based around let me say the shield, the badge, the logo. You get to come here. You get to come here. But what is often forgotten is that, this is a relationship, and you hit on it. You're the best person to coach. You're the best person to get them to the next place in their life. If they can buy into that and they can be accountable, and they strive to be elite, why would you go anywhere else?
Right. I agree. Just got to now go prove it on the football field, and I think people will start to see that. But that logo that you pick, whether it's a Bronco or whatever it is, that logo will get you nothing. That logo promises you nothing. What it does is it gives you a chance. And that's it. The people that now make up that logo that you've picked as people, they now make your life. So you better be right. And if you're a logo guy, and you're picking these logo schools, and there's no relationship built, but you're just picking the logo, you're in for a rude awakening. And there's a lot of logo schools, I call them logo schools, that have phenomenal people. But those are the ones that you see thrive year in and year out, and that's why the logo is what it is. Ohio State is Ohio State because of Woody Hayes and Jim Tressel, and, the history. You think back of Michigan, why Michigan is Michigan, Bo Schembechler. That's why those logos are the logo. The people. Not because they had a great designer. Think about Boise State, where it came from. No one wanted to go to Boise State 15 years ago. But you look at Coach Hawkins and Coach Chris Peterson. Those are people. Chris Peterson, one of the greatest people in this profession. And I've listened to him speak 5 times. He doesn't even know who I am. But I've listened to him speak, and he's a true person who gets it. And that's why that program's successful. Not because they're in Boise and they've done a great job with where they've taken them on a recruiting visit. It's because of the people that have come into Boise and changed that culture.
That's awesome. Well, let's talk about your football camp and some of the charities that are near and dear to your heart. What's your Live Your Dream football camp? What's that about?
We're not allowed to do that anymore. We actually just stopped doing that because once you're a college football coach and now you come, if you run a camp back home or you run a camp that's out of state, you're not allowed to do that. Okay, so now I live in Michigan. I can't run my camp that I used to run back in Illinois. So we don't have the scholarship deal anymore. When I was a player and some other times, we had that going, and it was phenomenal. When I worked in Illinois, and we'd give a few scholarships to some high school kids, and they were able to now go to college. So we weren't able to do that when we're still involved in Friends of Cara and the Alopecia Foundation, just because my niece has alopecia. Alopecia is where they don't grow any hair. The kids or adults or whoever doesn't have any hair. And my niece is, 9 years old and goes through that every single day. A normal girl wakes up and does her hair. My niece doesn't do that. And it's very emotionally draining for a young person, especially a kid, especially a female, that when you think of female, you think of long, flowy hair, and she's not able to do that. She's not able to pull her hair back. And so we're very involved in that. and we're always supporting Coach Kill and his cancer foundation. But like I said, we've kind of eased off on some of those because of, you know, my job, and it's just the way it is. The NCAA puts regulations on even running camps and doing things for charities, and but again, they do that because people would take advantage of it. Somehow, some way, they find a way to cheat in recruiting, so they got to put a rule on it. People do the right thing. I just think that if they would just do the right thing, then college coaches are some of the greatest influences on people's lives, and there could be a lot more things we could do better in this world in terms of if we let people run things like that. So to answer your question, we still are involved in a lot of charities out here. We're involved in the American Heart Association. And we try to do as many things as we can with Special Olympics. Our players do a tremendous job with that, and all the community things we can do around here as well.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, my last question is always, you know, some of the lessons that you learned along the way. I think you've given me about 15, so I don't want to be selfish. But I do want to ask on the behalf of, you know, I think a lot of guys want to take your route, you know, once their playing days are over. What is one thing that you would tell, you know, that guy, whether it's a receiver like yourself or, you know, an O-lineman or maybe even a kicker who wants to start the process of getting into coaching?
Well, there's two things I would tell them. One would be surround yourself with elite people. I mean, if you look at my resume and you look at the people I've surrounded myself with, it's pretty incredible. From just to name a few, Jim Tressel to Norv Turner to Ron Turner, to Mike McCarthy to Dennis Erickson to Mike Nolan to Greg Schiano, you know, Joe Novak, Jerry Kill. I mean, I could go on and on. Butch Davis. I could go all the way up and down the line. But those are phenomenal people as well as coaches. So surround yourself with elite people in whatever you choose to do. And age is just a number. And I didn't know if I'd reach my goal when I was 85 or 32 or whatever, but I got my shot early. And the second thing I would tell them is very simple. Greg Schiano taught me this. He said, the pain of discipline versus the pain of regret. I have zero regrets in my life. Zero. I don't regret anything. Because I was disciplined enough, the pain of whatever it was going to cost, to truly pay the price with all the pain that went away, came along with it, to make sure I had no regrets. And the pain of discipline versus the pain of regret. And we all know, we define in our program discipline as consistency of action. Consistency of action. So whatever you're going to do it consistently and do it at an elite level. Or you're going to regret it. Whether that's where you don't get where you want to truly get to, you don't reach that goal, or you don't reach that goal, but you did everything you possibly could have done, then you shouldn't have any regrets. But you're the only one that looks in that mirror and sits there and tells yourself, I did that, and I regret it. Or, I've done everything I could. I don't regret anything. People always say to me, did you miss the NFL playing? I said, no. No. I mean, God finally told me, look, you've gotten every ounce of athleticism out of that body of yours. And you had your dream come true. That's good enough for me right now. We're going to move you on. I had no regrets. Even when I got cut, I got offered a job and I was fired up. Going through the worst day of my life, I was fired up for my next chapter. Because I knew there was nothing more I could have given the San Francisco 49ers. There was nothing more I could have given them. So those would be the two things of advice. Surround yourself with elite people and pain of discipline versus pain of regret.
Awesome. That's awesome. Well, Coach Fleck, I just want to thank you for doing this interview. I mean, it's crazy to just hear, in a good way, in a very inspiring way, it's crazy to hear how you've done all this fast. You know, we always talk about people who, on the mountaintop. But it's cool to see that somebody who just went after it the right way. And it's happening, you know. I mean, it blew my mind when I asked you, were you ready to be a head coach? And you're like, well, honestly, I was ready to be a head coach 3 years ago. I was like, oh, okay. Did not see that coming. But,
and one thing is, you don't know you're ready until you're ready. I don't know what the age would have been for me to be really ready. I don't know. I've never been a head coach. I don't know what the job is until you're in that job. And that's another thing for the coordinating thing. Whether you're an offensive coordinator for 20 years and now you become a head coach, you're still a first-time head coach.
Yeah.
Whether you had zero coordinating experience, you're still a first-time head coach like everybody else because it's a different job. And that's what's neat about it. I mean, I feel like I'm 60 years old trapped in a 32-year-old body, which is great. I'd rather it be that than the other way around. But all the experiences I've had, and I've been with some elite people for not even a long time. They've come and went, but I've taken everything I could from them. I mean, I've zapped all the knowledge I could from that person by the time I was there, and I was very observant. I never took my time with them for granted. And that's why I can be with Greg Schiano 2-3 years, or I could be with Jim Tressel for 7 months and gain everything I needed to get from that guy. I don't have to be with somebody for 15 years to sit there and say, I learned from him. I can move on now because I'm very observant and I know what I want to look for out of that person, and I take good and the bad from them and move on. So I appreciate the interview, though. That was a lot.